He entered the world fighting for every single breath. This wasn't a movie script or a tabloid headline. This was a premature baby boy, born in the heart of New Orleans, who spent his first months of life not in a warm nursery, but in a hospital incubator, tethered to machines that beeped and hummed where a mother's heartbeat should have been. No family came to claim him. No father stepped forward. He was a ghost before he had even taken a real step. Then, a miracle arrived in the most unexpected form. 16 years ago, Sandra Bullock, then the highest-paid actress in Hollywood, the woman who could have anything money could buy, walked into that sterile room. In one breathtaking instant, the boy went from being completely alone in the world to having one of the most powerful women on the planet as his mother. She named him Louis. But here is the question the tabloids never answer: what happens after the fairy tale adoption? What does that little boy look like now, at 16? And how did saving him actually end up saving Sandra Bullock from herself? To understand this, we have to understand the woman who chose him. Sandra Bullock was never the fragile flower of Hollywood. Born in 1964 in Virginia, she was raised by a voice coach father and a German opera singer mother. Her childhood was a constant motion between the United States and Europe, learning to adapt, to perform, and to build a home out of chaos. That nomadic youth forged a specific kind of steel inside her. She learned that resilience was not about being the loudest in the room, but about being the last one standing when the storm passed. The dream began in the late 80s, a grind of bad auditions and smaller roles. But it was 1994's Speed opposite Keanu Reeves that detonated her career. Playing Annie Porter, she wasn't just a damsel in distress, she was the brain, the heart, and the driver. She proved she could steer an action film with a wink and a clenched jaw. Overnight, she became America's sweetheart, tough, funny, and impossibly real. Then came the rom-com reign. While You Were Sleeping showcased her vulnerability. Miss Congeniality turned her into a global superstar, earning over $212 million and proving that a woman could fall downstairs, get punched in the face, and still walk away with dignity. She was the queen of the feel-good hit because she understood a secret most actors don't: comedy comes from pain, and warmth comes from knowing how cold the world can be. But the world truly stood up and noticed in 2009 with The Blind Side. Playing Lee in Tui, Sandra didn't just act, she transformed. She played a woman who sees a homeless teenager, Michael O'Hare, and refuses to look away. She didn't play Lee in as a saint. She played her as a fierce, complicated, sometimes wrong, but always determined mother. The film grossed $309 million, and in February 2010, Sandra stood on the Oscar stage, clutching a gold statue, tears streaming down her face. It was the peak of her professional life. But while the cameras flashed, her personal life was a hurricane. In the middle of a brutal, public divorce from Jesse James, Sandra was quietly fighting a different battle. For months, she had been navigating the secret, exhausting process of adoption. She found Louis in New Orleans, a city still scarred by Hurricane Katrina. He was 3.5 months old, fragile as glass. When she held him for the first time, she later revealed with a rare softness, the world went silent. "The noise," she said, "just stopped." In that moment, the Oscars didn't matter. The divorce didn't hurt. The only thing that existed was this tiny boy who had no one. She named him Louis Bardo Bullock, and from that sacred moment, the actress died a little, and the mother was born. Sandra drastically reduced her workload. She turned down millions. The woman who once ran from premiere to premiere now woke up for 3 a.m. feedings, changed diapers, and sang lullabies with a voice that had never been trained for this specific, beautiful song. She wasn't just playing a role anymore, she was fighting for a soul. She wanted Louis to grow up normal, no staged photo shoots, no look at the Celebrity Mom magazine covers. She wanted him to know he was loved for him, not for his mother's fame. Then, in December 2015, another quiet miracle. She adopted a little girl, Layla. Pronounced Layla, she was 3 years old and had been lost in the Louisiana foster care system. When Sandra met her, she felt the same undeniable pull. But here is the beautiful detail the headlines missed. It was 5-year-old Louis who first told his mom he wanted a sister. When Sandra told him about Layla, Louis looked at her with total seriousness and said, "I knew she was coming, Mom." The bond was instant. Louis became the leader of the little pack, gently guiding his new sister into a world of safety. Sandra, watching them, found the emotional center of her universe. She once said with deep emotion, "My family is blended and beautiful, and I wouldn't have it any other way." For a few years, life was a routine of school drop-offs and bedtime stories. She found a steady, calm partner in photographer Brian Randall. He became the father figure Louis and Layla needed. It was a quiet, private harbor away from the storm of Hollywood. Then, in early 2023, the storm came home. Brian Randall was diagnosed with ALS. The disease is a thief, slowly stealing the body while leaving the mind intact. Sandra, who had already stepped back after The Lost City, made an instant decision. She walked away from Hollywood for good this time. No return date. No maybe next year. She cleared her schedule to become a full-time caregiver. For 18 months, the movie star vanished. She was no longer the woman on the poster. She was the woman holding Brian's hand during the hard nights, the woman explaining to Louis and Layla why their stepfather couldn't run with them anymore. Friends described it as a period of profound, quiet strength. When Brian passed away in August 2023, the loss was catastrophic. But something remarkable happened in the wreckage. Louis was 13 years old then. The little boy in the incubator was gone. In his place stood a tall, thoughtful teenager with broad shoulders and a heavy heart. Those close to the family said Louis stepped up in a way that left grown adults speechless. He became a source of strength for his mother. He was patient. He offered hugs without being asked. He sat in silence with Sandra on her hardest days, asking nothing in return. He had learned from the best. He had watched his mother love a dying man with every fiber of her being. Now, he was giving that love back to her. Now, as we move through 2026, Louis is 16. In the few candid shots that have emerged, a trip to the grocery store, a walk in Austin, he is tall, handsome, dressed in hoodies and jeans. He walks with the grounded, unpretentious energy Sandra fought so hard to protect. He is not a Hollywood kid. He is a survivor. And Sandra? The industry is buzzing. Quiet rumors say she has been reading scripts again. The long-awaited Practical Magic 2 with Nicole Kidman is on the table. There is talk of a reunion with Keanu Reeves, 30 years after Speed. Fans are desperate to see her return. But here is the truth about Sandra Bullock at 61. She will only return if it fits around the school run. She will only act again if the role is as meaningful as the life she has built. The woman who was once the highest-paid actress in the world learned a brutal, beautiful lesson: an Oscar collects dust. A child's hug heals wounds. Sandra Bullock walked into a hospital room 16 years ago to save a forgotten boy. But in doing so, she found her own salvation. Her greatest performance was never on a screen. It was the way she raised Louis and Layla through joy and unimaginable grief. It was the way she held Brian's hand until the end. She didn't just survive the Hollywood machine. She dismantled it to build a home. And now, as we wait to see if she returns to the movies, one thing is certain: Louis Bullock is no longer the boy who had nothing. He is the teenager who has everything, because a mother finally said yes when the world said no.